Welcome to Ron&Nick's Best Friend Podcast. Say it, Ronnie.
Podcast you can't live without.
All right.
Ronnie. Okay.
It's a new name for you.
Here we go,
Okay.
Ronnie. Yeah.
Hey, real quick, tell them about your hat. You got to say something.
Dan gave me this hat.
Engine 9.
Engine 9. Captain Dan in the City of Norfolk Fire Department. Great guy. Actually, one of my spiritual children. Married to Beth. Beth and Dan and their kids. They're part of our tribe, part of our community. Have been for a long time, and so I'm wearing this hat because Dan gave it to me, and I don't think I've worn it yet. So I'm here, Dan. I'm going to wear this hat at least once publicly, and now you see. I appreciate the hat. I love hats, actually.
Hey, listen.
You made fun of my hat. last time.
No. I thought
Yes,
I told you. What did I tell you? I told you it looks good. So don't tell me that.
Okay.
All right. So here's the thing. Before I get into the subject, we're going to talk about. Listen, I want because you were praying just before we got on. You said producing life. Do you think we're helping produce life, or is that a stupid thing to say about this podcast?
Did I say that?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you didn't say it about us, but you said, listen, you used the word producing life. You don't remember saying that at all? Okay. Well, that's why this is a live broadcast and we don't.
I'm trying to look.
What's
the point?
The point is,
get to the point.
I like that word, producing life. What things produces life? What there are things that take away life.
No, that's not what I said.
What did you say?
But I said seed that's growing.
Right.
And I said that I talked about cultivating and watering, and that it would grow.
Okay.
That's very interesting. That's what you got out of that. But that's true. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with it. Does produce life. I'm just trying. I'm a words guy, man. You can't throw me.
I understand.
Other words,
but okay. All right.
No, I'm not. I don't want to take issue with that. I want to go for it. Go wherever it was going.
Well,
where
it's going for is listen. We want you to listen to this podcast. Hey, we're going to be talking about conviction. Okay, so let me just say it right now. Stay tuned. Conviction. But the reason it excited me was, listen, I want to help, and it's not coming. I'm always defensive when I say things like, I want this podcast to produce life and to help life and to encourage people. And I'm always very defensive when I say that because I don't want people to think it's from me and I'm doing it. I don't want to take credit for anything. I want to help produce life in people. I think people are walking around at times and they're dead and they don't even realize it. And when you start, this podcast is about the Holy Spirit. And when you start having a relationship, a deeper relationship, a conversation more so, and he becomes your friend, he becomes your best friend, it actually produces a different life. Okay. I know that's not very eloquent, but that's what stuck into me when you said producing life. You want to say anything before we go about conviction?
Well, yes. I don't really have that same problem. I don't feel apologetic about it at all.
You don't?
No, because maybe it's because I got convinced along. Well, part of the valley of the shadow of death that I walked through was the revelation
that's a good point.
That I tried to give people life, and that in trying to give them life, what I gave them the version that I had, which was actually, my good flesh. It was my good flesh is what I gave people. I gave them good opinions, I gave them good words, I gave them good ideas, and I wore myself out giving people my good flesh, and the revelation. And this is in pastoring and counseling and working with people. I tried to produce life in people, and what you can't do is you can't give people life that way. You can't. You can give them a version of life, but it isn't life at all. It's what the Pharisees did. The Pharisees gave the people everything that they gave them was good as far as it goes. I mean, it was good, but it just wasn't life. And Jesus comes along and says, hey, listen, you're giving all these people this stuff, but all it does is weigh them down and weigh them down. And he said, but I've come that they might have life and have it to the full. That's John 10:10. And so I guess when I don't think about it this way anymore, because I go, I know that I don't give anybody life. That the only person that can do that is the Holy Spirit, and that He's glad to do it. That's what's cool about it. Like, He's glad to do it. I think maybe that's what you heard when I was praying before we got on air. Is I'm really excited about. I'm really more excited than ever about what we're doing here. That this movement that we're building, this tribe that we're building, this community of the Holy Spirit that we're building, is a community of that kind of life, life into the full.
That's
because when you know the Holy Spirit, you actually come alive. You that's being born again at the first. But the more that you know Him, the more life you have. It's like what we said about getting younger while we get older, getting more filled with life, even as our bodies get older.
So I know this subject of conviction is going to end up heading towards the Holy Spirit. But listen, we've been on a kind of a theme. A couple weeks ago, we talked about confession, which was a great episode. You guys, if you ever look at them in the past, go on confession. But we're going to talk about conviction here, okay? And there's a lot of words that come from the word conviction, okay? Like a convict. What's a convict? Guy that's been in jail, right? Convicted. That could mean convicted of a crime. A conviction is you have a conviction, a belief of something, and you're pursuing it. I want to talk about conviction in the spiritual sense, okay? And because I want to talk about these things that we may have thought about, but really never given much thought about. Speaking about conviction, spiritual conviction. Okay, so these subjects, I think I realized this morning when it came up, a lot of these subjects actually come from my own personal life and how I've thought about things in the past and how I think about things now. And so that's how I think God speaks to me in the subjects that we talk about, that I bring up. So when I get convicted, when I had conviction, I would feel bad about myself. I'd feel guilty. And I would feel condemned. Okay? And I would just kind of go, I would what? I would just back away. I'd either stuff it down. I'd try to forget it. When I felt guilty about something I did, I'd try to run away from it. And then I start realizing that the conviction may be another voice that was speaking to me. And I would go, and I thought about that for a while, and I said, okay, when I did something, I said, why in the heck is this bothering me? And maybe it's God trying to punish me and making me feel bad. And hey, I'm drowning here, Ron.
What are you drowning?
I'm just drowning. I'm drowning right now. I need help.
In the Word?
I'm just in this conviction. I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say here. It just, I used to.
Well, what is it? What is conviction? What does it produce?
Well,
see, I think that's the question. Like, I think everybody has felt what we would call a guilty conscience at some time or another.
Yeah,
and
what
the question
the hell
is,
does that mean?
Well, you've done something or said something or whatever, and you feel what you would call you would feel maybe condemned. You would feel self-condemned, or maybe it's someone else, brought it to you and said this was wrong. And I think what you're angling at is, where does that come from? Because
the guilty conscience.
Yeah, well, how that is, that conviction? is that what you're aiming at? Is that what because I know this, like, how did a lot of us, we've been parents, some of us are parents, we've had parents, and they've used this on us to control us.
That's for sure.
We don't do things like that. You did something wrong or something like that. And I think what we're about in this community that we're building, and so we're talking to you as a community, is do you think that that's okay? Like, is that do you think that's the voice of the Holy Spirit? Because you can be controlled. People can control you by trying to convict you.
Yes, and I think in the past I have, to a certain point, been controlled through my conviction or my guilt, and has hurt me. And what I'm trying to ladies and gentlemen, here's the point. I'm trying to get people to think about this. When you're having these convictions, number one, where are they coming from? Because you know damn well that the Holy Spirit can also convict, but just as much the enemy can convict and flip that around, right? Mm-hmm. And create shame, guilt, and fear. And
I'm not sure that I agree with that. Like,
really?
What I believe there might be a difference between conviction and condemnation.
Oh, okay. Separate that.
Well, I think they end up. That's why I think this is why it's a good conversation. Like, what kind of tribe do you want to be part of? What kind of movement of the Holy Spirit are we creating here? Actually, is it an authentic movement of the Holy Spirit? And here's what you can tell about movements that aren't of the Holy Spirit. They do use things to condemn you and to make you feel bad in order to control you. I've told you a bunch of times about Way Down Workshop, the Duggars thing on Netflix or Prime or whatever it is, and these other kind of communities that are communities of the flesh. Because they control you, they take one truth, and they say, you're not a good parent. Shouldn't you be a better parent? Yeah. You're not controlling your children. You're not under this umbrella, whatever they talk about. Or you're not treating your body right. You're a glutton. You need to learn how to do this. Okay, so what are they doing? Is that condemnation or is that conviction?
That's my point. I mean, it's very close.
I don't think so.
You don't? All right, then you give it to me practically.
Listen. I'll give it to you as practically as I can. If I come and tell you, and I'm your friend, and I go, Nick, this area of life, like, and we both suffer from this, so I don't feel bad about saying it, like, I'm not eating right. You're not eating right.
Right.
Okay, let's figure out what's going on so that you can stop doing that destructive thing. Okay? I love you. I want you to be around a long time. And I want us to see our grandchildren and things like that. Okay, is that condemning? Am I asking you, inviting you into control, shame, guilt, and fear? Or am I inviting you into freedom and truth and love? Because here is the truth. We should not eat the way that we do. We should not, consume the way that we do because it's doing something different than feeding our bodies. That's for sure about gluttony.
Right.
Like, you're not feeding your body, you're feeding something else, which is probably we should do a whole episode on gluttony. But do you feel the difference in my voice? Okay, now here's condemnation. What are you doing, you fat slob? Why you eat like that? You're destroying your body, and you're ashamed. You should be ashamed of yourself. Look at you. Okay, it's completely different. That voice that you're talking about
That's beautiful.
Is a completely different voice. And I want to be part of a community where people say, here's truth. I want you to be convicted of the truth. I want you to have a conviction that I'm telling you the truth, and I want you to have a conviction that I love you and that I wouldn't tell you the truth if I wasn't inviting you into more freedom, more truth, and more life, more authenticity. That's the kind of community that I want to be a part of. Unfortunately, many of our Christian communities do not operate this way. That's why those two examples come up. Way Down Workshop is one of them. The Duggars thing, which that came out of a whole movement about the theology or doctrine of the family,
as well as some churches.
Look, I've been in them and I understand them, and this is all flavors of churches. I don't care whether Catholic, Baptist, Protestant, any version of Protestant, Pentecostal, all of them out there. Like you can't go anywhere and not run into condemnation. And to me, the difference is there is a voice of the Holy Spirit. He's the one who says these things to your heart that you're convinced, oh, here's somebody who really loves me. And when he says this to me, I go, no, you're right. Mike Wells would say this, and I love him. We talk about him all the time. He said there's only two kinds of people who have anything to do with sheep: shepherds and butchers. And you know the difference between the voices. Like the shepherd's voice is leading and kind and firm, but also loving. And the butcher's voice is driving and harsh and leads only to slaughter. So the enemy fakes and counterfeits conviction, I think, and his fake version of it is really condemnation that makes you feel bad about yourself. Like I think there's a whole movement of Christians out there who think it's a good thing if you feel bad about yourself. Why are you laughing? Am I right?
That's absolutely true.
I'm not trying to form a community of people who feel bad about themselves.
Okay, so here's where I want to go. And thank you for saving me because I was drowning and I put my hand up and you pulled me up. No, I'm serious. Now you can hear it in my voice, okay? And ladies and gentlemen, you just experienced how the Spirit works, right? Okay, I don't know if you guys heard it, but I was drowning. In fact, I said I'm drowning, and we're not going to cut the tape. We don't do that here.
We've often been drowning. Go back and listen.
Okay, that's right. We always. But listen. Okay, so this is what I want to do. I want to uplift everybody here. So forget the condemnation. I get it now. Okay, you heard it. Condemnation, conviction. There's two different ways of things that are coming to your head. How do we? I want people to understand that when they're convicted, that is just. Would you say that's actually a time of worship and joy? That when you actually are convicted, you're understanding that something is happening, that the Spirit of God is speaking inside your heart, in your mind, and that gets me excited. It's like, where are these thoughts coming from? It's coming with exactly what you said. Hey, I love you. You know you're not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
Come on, let's figure this out together. And when you hear that, brother, that is joyful. It's like, wait a second, we got a conversation going in here.
Right.
And let's turn it into worship and closeness and understanding of what's going on.
That's actually here's a great way to land this for today, is this. I've talked about it before, but I think pretty specifically that lust has been a problem for basically my whole life, for me. And
me too.
When I started to hear the voice of the Holy Spirit, and my eyes would be, my head would be on a swivel, and I'm looking, and lust is like coming at me. What that sounds like it's whatever. The Holy Spirit would just say, People go, and I recognized that I was saying, and then he's saying, Now what is that? That's conviction. That's my friend.
Absolutely.
That's talking to me. And I realized more and more that I love his voice. Well, and I'm loving the voice that's correcting and bringing conviction and saying, this isn't good for you.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I'm actually trying to invite him more and more into this eating thing. Like, I want to hear him say, And I'm inviting him, please, Holy Spirit, tell me, I love your correction. I love your rebuke. Like, how many people in your life, I love you so much, and I'm so convinced that you love me, that when you tell me no, and tell me and tell me I'm doing something that's destructive, I just go, oh, thank you so much. I love that. That's worship. And it's also connection with the Spirit, which is the point. He's not correcting you so that he can send you off to do good things. He's correcting you to get it out of the way of relationship so that you can have a better relationship. Hey, this is getting in the way. This is messing things up. Just And you go, oh, wow, I love you. I love your voice. I want more of that.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Ron and Nick's Best Friend Podcast, a show for anyone who needs a friend. Join us every week right here as we talk about who?
our best friend, the Holy Spirit. And if you want more information about him or the show, you can find it at www.ronandnicksbestfriend.com.
And don't forget to subscribe.